Here we have, we're again in E major, so I'm going back to my pedal 6/4 key signature, but we are E major, so this is a B, D sharp, F sharp, and A chord. Okay, so in this case, I want to go from a 5 to a 5/7. I'm going to use passing to create the pedal 6/4 on the weak beat here. Okay, so now I've set that up. My bass, as always with the pedal 6/4 in the neighbor, it's just going to hold one note, which then resolves. So we have a 5-1, 5-to-1 resolution from the dominant to the tonic. This happens a lot more often. Now, in this case, we are going to need we need to create the other, we need the 4th and the 6th, right, for the pedal. So right now we have an E, which is the 4th above the bass. So I'm going to set up my tenor to do the 6th. So it's going to do, in parallel motion, it's going to take the 5th of the chord and then move up to the 6th above the bass, and then to the 7th. And this is scale degree. If we talk about scale degrees, we're going from scale degree 2 to 3 to 4. So there's my scale degree 4, which then has to resolve properly over the bar line, but I've now just created a 5/7 there. Now here I have my pedal 6/4, and I just need to fill in one more voice. Okay, so I'm going from a 5 triad to a 5/7. Now I just need to fill in my last voice here. So I have a B, a D, and an F. So I'm going to have my, my final voice holding that B. Okay, so then we get to here. I need my B. We get to the 3rd beat. I have a B that's held through. I need a D. So at this point then that alto needs to take up the leading tone, okay, which then that's scale degree 7, that needs to resolve to 8. So it joins the soprano there. And then my final chord here is an E, G sharp chord. We're missing the chordal 5th, which will sometimes happen. Okay, so as long as we have the root in the 3rd, which we do, we have the E and we have the G. Okay, so that's how to go from a 5 to a 5/7. Let me move to this one. This one is a 5/7 to a 5/7. So we start, because our soprano has scale degree 4. So we have a scale degree 4 moving down to 1, meaning that we have to do some decoration here because that's not an appropriate movement. We are going to do this as a deceptive resolution right now. But first, let's set up our soprano. Okay, all the way down by step. Again, my bass can't change. It's holding a pedal essentially right through the measure. So it's just holding the root of the chord. In all of these instances, the bass always has the root of the chord, except for our augmented, except for our arpeggiated 6/4, which is when it is allowed to move. Okay, so this is my first one. So I have 4, 3, 2, 1 in my soprano. In this point, I'm going to have my bass, or sorry, my tenor, take my other, okay, so my tenor is going to take my, the octave here. So it's going to go the 5th. So, and this is now then going to not partake in the 6/4, really, it's going to keep the octave, but it is going to make sure that 7th, because we have a 5/7 on the first beat of the measure, we need a 5/7 on the last beat of the measure, and that's getting extended by this pedal 6/4. So because the soprano moves away from it, the tenor takes over, and then it does its 4 to 3 resolution here. Okay, and finally my alto voice is going to take the remaining voice. So we have a B, D, we need the D sharp in here. Okay, so this D sharp starts here. We need to make sure that we have the 4th and the 6th above the bass. So the 4th above the bass is an E, that's what we don't have. So it's going to move up, and then it's going to move back down. So it's doing neighbor note motion, even though this is a pedal, and then that has to resolve properly. That's scale degree 7 has to resolve to 8. Okay, so in this case, now we've gone to a deceptive resolution. So we've gone from root position 5 to root position 6. This chord is C, E, and G, which is what we have. At this point here, we have a B, a D, an F, and an A. Here we're missing the 5th of the chord. We don't have an F, but that's okay as long as we have the root, the 3rd, and then the 7th in a 5/7 chord. Okay, that's how you do a 5 to 5/7 with the pedal 6/4 in the middle. And then the one thing I missed, oh, I didn't put the figured bass. Remember, the figured bass would have to be 7 here. Then we need our pedal 6/4 here. And then we need our 7 there.